better subscribe, bitches.
You'll suck until rain. You'll suck until rain. Through the dust and setting sun. There were many good souls on that lonely fob, but none like the white lass.
This is the Objective Jerk, and I am said jerk. How is everybody doing? All right, so I recorded a podcast explaining in more detail my situation, so I'm not going to get into it again, but this is a re-recording of a previous podcast I did about 311. I wasn't going to re-record it, but after listening to my last podcast, which sounded so much better, so I was like, you know what, I got to do it, because the other one just sounds like ass. So for those that listen to the original version, I apologize, because it sounded like ass, and plus I did some singing, which I am not going to do this time. So there's that. So 311. Okay, so I got to I didn't want to redo this, because it's like, now I got to try and go back to the way how I did my first one. But so this isn't going to be, it's going to sound better. There's not going to be any singing, but other than that, I don't think it's going to be as good, but here we go. 311 is probably, it is one of my favorite bands, if not my most favorite band. And I say that because it's still the band that I really listen to probably the most often out of all my bands growing up. I'll go through stages or periods of listening to different bands or whatever, but 311 is always, one that I go back to. It, because I told my son, or I've always told him that, or he asked me once or something, I can't remember how it came up, but if I had to pick one band to listen to for the rest of my life, and I said it was 311, just because they have, they don't have everything, but they do have mellow, love, reggae, rock, it's all in there kind of, so you get a little bit of, as far as that little spectrum, not the entire spectrum, but enough, I think. So, I wouldn't want to listen to nothing but 311 for the rest of my life, but if I had to, that's the way I'd go, if I had to pick a band, right? Because AC/DC, I could not listen to them because as great as AC/DC is, and it has its moments and it has its time, and but I couldn't listen to that forever. I couldn't listen to AC/DC for the rest of my life. 311, I guess I'll start where I'm sorry, I'm trying to remember my last podcast. This is retarded. But all right, so here we go. Just pretend like I didn't do the other one. So I vividly remember the first time hearing a 311 song, where I knew it was 311. It's possible I heard some of their other ones before, but I don't know. But I remember I was living in Washington State at the time, and I was driving Washington State near Tacoma in a small city called Spanaway. And that's where I graduated high school, Spanaway Lake High School, which is the same high school that Jerry Cantrell from Alice in Chains graduated from. But anyway, I digress. I was driving on Spanaway Loop. It was nighttime or evening time. I was going north, and I remember Down came on, and it just, okay, I said I wasn't going to sing, but so it comes on, and I'm like, whoa, I was like, who is this, I immediately was like intrigued, and I remember really kind of trying to pay attention to who they said the band was, and that's when, 311 was like, okay, 311, so I, would hear it a few more times, and I'm like, dude, this song's awesome, I need to buy this album, so I did. So this was 95, the summer of 95. So the year before it came out, I think I did this last time. I had to make sure. I'm pulling it up right now. Down was released July of 96. Oh, so I had already graduated. Man, I think I was completely retarded. So the album was released in 95, technically. And then Transistor was like a year later? That's kind of crazy. Anyway, so Down comes out July of 96, so a little after I graduate high school. So I buy the album, and I remember one of the first, not the first time, but it was pretty new to me, so I had just bought it, but I was house sitting some family friend's house for like a week or something, and I invited a handful of friends. It wasn't like a big party like you see in the movies, you know. It was just some close friends, and we were hanging out. We smoked some weed, and you know, was playing board games, and we were listening to 311. And the song Misdirected Hostility was playing, right? So we're playing board games, and we're playing Jenga, right? So the Jenga is the little wooden block game where it's got like a little tower, and you got to push out the blocks and stack it on top, and then whoever makes it fall over loses, right? Now they got them in like 2x4 sizes. They're huge. So I remember playing that game with my friends, a little stoned, listening to 311, and on like the second verse where it says, "You should take a tip from the one Frank Black, play some Pachinko, play some Parcheesi, because all the other angst shit is just cheesy." Now I'm trying to remember which. I think it might have been Parcheesi. Play some Pachinko. Yeah, or others. I mean, looking at this now, it's like, why? Well, I guess we were stoned, so. But we totally thought that they said play some Jenga. You know what I mean? So we're sitting there, a little baked. We're playing Jenga, and it's like, play some Jenga, and we're like, whoa! And we just start tripping out and laughing, and it was, good times. After that, I had that album in my stereo, like pretty much. I never took it out for that whole summer, the rest of the summer anyway. And since then, they've been one of my go-to bands. They were usually always, if I didn't know, like if I wanted to listen to something, if I wanted to listen to music, but I didn't know what, I would put in 311, especially after Transistor came out. And that's kind of still how it is today. Or now as I'm older, it's kind of like when I'm trying to motivate myself or, help me uplift my mood a little bit. They're not, yeah, they're pushing the unity, happy agenda. But they do write songs that are, about loss and depression and things like that. So, and there's some great songs that are with that, I think I read somewhere that they thought like, yes, they're all about being positive and this and that, but, sometimes you got to write about what or experiencing or whatever. So they did. And the reason I'm talking about the Blue Album first as opposed to music or Grassroots is because this was the album that introduced me, and I thought this was their first album. I mean, yeah, bands always have their little EP, whatever kind of beginning kind of stuff, but I thought this was their first real album because for one, it was, self-titled, so I had no idea that they had the first two albums, and it wasn't until after Transistor came out that me and my friend, that we had learned that they had the albums, which I'll talk about that, later, but I'm here to talk about the Blue Album. So that's kind of my history with the album, right? But so here we go. So now this is kind of going to be, I guess, my review. So Down, obviously Down is the song, it's one of those songs that never gets old, at least not for me. I think every band, will have their song that you like, but then it is popular or it's a single, and then you hear it everywhere, and then you start to get tired of it, Like Pearl Jam's Jeremy. Like I would be fine not ever listening to that again, And even 311 probably has a couple songs that I'm trying to, I kind of thought about this when I was listening to the Blue Album, because before I did this podcast, the first one, I was listening to it nonstop for a couple days, and, really kind of, it actually, some of the songs that I kind of used to not like as much, or maybe would sometimes skip, I just found myself I just played the album over and over again for a couple days, and was loving every minute of it, singing along, you know. And it's not that I didn't like some of the songs. Like, all the songs on it are great, but there are some that I like more than others, you know, obviously. So, Down, awesome song. The bridge on that, you know, between the two verses, and then like at the end, the outro, it's just like every time, man, it just gets you going. It's one of the best songs, right? Random. So I remember buying this album and then, you know, putting in, and then boom, Down comes out, and you're just like, yeah, man, all excited, new band, this is the song. And then Random comes up, and it's like, huh? Because I'm kind of, you know, you're expecting a little more of like Down, right? Especially being that's, you know, I hadn't heard the first two albums. So it was a little, okay, so they do a little whatever. I mean, it's not too drastic change or anything like that, but great song. I love the verse. Sound Boy. Oh no, that's the, okay, I'm trying to find the chorus. So the chorus, yeah. And this is when you kind of hear like the different back and forth between SA and Nick Hexum, which you hear in Down too, but it's just different, you know. So you got Nick Hexum doing the "Isn't it random?" Oh, I'm singing. Oh, I said I wasn't gonna do that. So when you're saying "Isn't it random?" Ah, and then you have SA. You know we cool when we come about here, so clear, no fear. We're in your ear. You know we people get ready. But anyway, so the chorus is pretty good. I always liked the chorus to that song. Man, I was singing again. I'm sorry. So Jack-O-Lantern's Weather is the third song. And this was a song that I always liked, or the chorus. Like, the chorus was lacking to me. I never liked the chorus all that much. Like, it seemed a little corny or poppy. I don't know. But the chorus is like I said, I didn't like it. But then once I was reading, so as a part of me, I guess, researching, not really, but I guess going back and listening to the album, because I've done some reviews on some stuff in the past, and it was just my memory of certain things, you know. So I thought, you know, I should listen to it again, get it fresh in my mind, because I don't say I listen to the Blue Album once a year, but at least listen to a couple songs. Generally, when I listen to bands that I like, I just have all their albums on like a random, and I listen to, you know, I don't listen to a certain album necessarily anymore. So sitting there and just listening to nothing but the Blue Album was kind of cool, actually. And researching and reading the lyrics and various things, I found myself liking this chorus and some other songs as well when I learned what the lyrics were. So like, so the chorus is, kid is smart, the kid is clever, stomping in no jack-o'-lantern's weather, backpack strap 'cause the world is cold, headphones pumping, don't you know. I'm trying not to sing, but I'm trying to give it a little bit of rhythm so you guys can know what I'm saying. Kid is smart, kid is clever, stopping in jack-o'-lantern's weather, rocks his hood and plays it mellow while maple leaves change into yellow. So, you know, I don't know. I never really, you know, like, I don't know, probably like a lot of people, when you listen to music, sometimes you like 311's kind of weird because you can kind of hear for the most part what they're saying, but not everything. Like, there are certain bands, like maybe like Tool or something, where it's like, what the hell is he saying? You got to really read the lyrics if they have it. And now you can get lyrics for everything. But back in the day, man, if the lyrics weren't in the album, you were fucked. So you had to sit there and listen to it on repeat over and over again and dissect it with your friend. What's he saying there? Oh, I think he's saying this. And, you know, come to some sort of conclusion. But 311 was never overly, you could hear for the most part. But when they did their fast, rapid fire rapping or, you know, whatever, you miss a lot of it. Yeah, I could like kind of rap along and mumble and say the wrong words, but the right melody and whatever. But in honesty, it's like I didn't really know everything that the song was saying, or, you know, So like this was kind of one of them that where I kind of appreciate a little bit more knowing what the lyrics are. And then see, okay, so All Mixed Up, their second. Or actually, yeah. No, it's their third single because Don't Stay Home is their first, which I didn't realize until I recorded this podcast the first time. But All Mixed Up. So, you know, I mean, if I'm trying to be honest, I probably heard this before I heard the album because it was a single. So I remember the video, seeing the video all the time and just really being enamored with it, and I loved watching it. I just thought they were so cool and you know, but it was very fun, you know, it's very reggae. When you're introduced to, you know, 311 with Down, and then, you know, you come across this, you're like, what the hell's going on here? Kind of, you might be a little thrown off, you know, but that's who they are, and it's awesome though. I loved All Mixed Up, but All Mixed Up was a song that I probably skipped for a while just because it was played like crazy. I mean, so was Down, but I don't know, Down just, man, it just never gets old to me. Okay, so here's like the bridge. Again, they have great bridges, I've noticed that, but so towards the end of the song where Nick Hexum is, you make me nervous, throat dry, my brain is empty, don't know why, but I saw you doing something which is really truly nothing, and you could bust me out all day. So like that right there, I got most of that listening to it. I didn't have to dissect it, but I think maybe a couple words I missed or whatever. You know, many moons since first I saw you, many moons since first we did the do, many moons. So it's like a love song, and I don't know. This is actually a really great song. Love this song, but I did get kind of a little tired of it. Not right away. I mean, it was years later or something because it's just like all the time. But anyway, on to the next one. So after All Mixed Up, you got Hive, right? Hive is great. Start cook, coming like a nightmare. Word like I'm gonna go for it. Fucking around and what you gotta show for it. Let me know when I'm in the zone, and whatever I need, I just pick up the phone. So this one is a favorite of mine. It's just nonstop. It's like I think I said it in the last one. It's like how they used to describe back in the 50s, back in the day, they used to describe Johnny Cash, the way he played, the way he strummed his guitar, just sound like a train, you know. And that's kind of how this song is. Just it goes and doesn't stop except for like the little in between the choruses between S.A. and Nick Hexum. But I'm not even gonna try. And I think I tried doing the one part. I tried rapping along because I was listening to the music as I was doing the podcast, and I was trying to sing along, and oh my gosh, it just is horrible. But even having the lyrics, man, I couldn't keep up and fumbled around and. Yeah, listening to that podcast, I was kind of embarrassed, so that's why I'm recording it again. All right, so Hive, and then Guns Are for Pussies. Loved this song. A little corny, I thought, at the time, but I still kind of liked it. Today, you know, I was very liberal when I was younger. Now I'm more conservative. So I believe in the Second Amendment. So some people might think like, well, you know, this gun's talking shit about Second Amendment. No, I don't. That's not what I get from it. I got into like a debate, not like anything mean or nasty, but I did get into a debate with somebody with this song before because they were, well, this gun doesn't like, and it's like, well, not really. And then a lot of times, if you know, it's like they kind of like their choruses, their song title and their chorus go together, but the verses are kind of just talking about random stuff. Sometimes they go with the song, sometimes they don't. But Guns Are for Pussies to me is when people settle their disputes with guns, and you know, like get in a fight with somebody and they get their ass kicked, and instead of maybe trying, you know, instead of just accepting defeat or whatever, or even getting more friends to try and beat them, they get a gun and they try and settle their beef that way, which is, you know, like a gang mentality and stuff like that. That to me is what the song is about, not Second Amendment individuals who, most people who are Second Amendment, not all, but most, respect that concealed carry permit and the responsibility that it brings. You can't. I used to conceal carry, and I would avoid situations every time. I would avoid situations that I could possibly, I didn't go to bars or go to like certain things with my gun, because then, I don't know, just something could happen. My gun was there for my mental health and to protect my family, basically. And I didn't flash it. I didn't like, oh yeah, I got, nobody. I tried to hide it because it was just a precaution, and that's how most individuals are. Again, not all, but most. Okay. Next is misdirected hostility. So I talked about this one already. It's on my lower tier of songs. So Jack-O-Lanterns, so far, I mean, the whole album's fire. I love all the songs, but I have, most of it is like top tier, but my lower tier songs so far are Jack-O-Lanterns, Weather, which I still love, but I gotta tier this stuff up, or down, however you want to look at it. And misdirected hostility too was kind of like, I like it, but it's more on my lower level. But again, I got that story with Jenga, which is funny. Purpose is a great song. I remember a friend of mine, she wasn't really into 311. She didn't not like 311, but I was always trying to be like, oh man, check out 311. But she did like Purpose a lot. And I remember years late, well, not years, it seemed like years at the time, but it was only like, well, 8-9 years after this album came out, I guess. And she asked me about that. She's like, oh, I really like the song Purpose. And I don't know, once CDs became the main, I didn't know albums by track songs. It was by the titles. It was by track songs. Oh, track 2. Oh, track 7. Let's listen to 7 tracks. That's kind of how things were. When you had a cassette or vinyl, you would know the songs much better. And I'm kind of back to learning them again. I remember she asked, like, do you like the song Purpose? And I'm like, Purpose. I'm trying to remember how it goes. And I don't know if she played it for me or she kind of sang a little part. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. And as soon as I hear the melody or whatever, and then it's like, okay. But yeah, that's a great song. Kind of a love song. But I always felt it kind of ended prematurely because I really liked the chorus. And then it kind of, you think it's going to do the chorus a second time, and then the song ends, and it's like, oh, man. But still a great song. Okay, Loco was another one of my lower tier. And it's still kind of fun. It's got good melody and all that stuff. But I didn't know what the song was about until I was getting ready for this podcast. And I was reading the lyrics. And it's basically just like the chorus. So, trip the shrooms, fantastic. Shit gets drastic. Elbow, pull the kick. Trip the shrooms. So the song's kind of tripping on shrooms and then writing a song about it. That's what I take from it. Knowing what it's about now kind of makes the song a little cooler, but it's still in my lower tier. Brodels is one of my favorites. The one that does the whistle. And you hear the bzzz. This was one of this song was like one of the first songs I learned to play on guitar. Not that I'm a guitarist. I suck at it. I can play drums, and a little bass, but not guitar. But I could still play this. Love this song, Brodels. Da-na-na-na. The power chords and stuff.
We pepper you with a sonic assault, a sidestepper you. I can't think of a...
Don't Stay Home, lower tier. That was the first single. And then I just saw the video for the first time when I was checking this album, when I was researching it again. And I never saw it before. It's kind of weird. Speaking of weird, man, one of their first videos, Nick Hexum he's a horrible dancer then. Like, he just looked so out of place trying to just white boy dancing, you know what I mean? It's kind of funny. He's gotten much better. I can't remember what song it is, but it was off music, I'm pretty sure. Anyway, so Don't Let Me Down, pretty good song, really short. I always thought it was, I liked the message. It's about an ex, love interest who maybe you're friends now, but you still care for, and they have a new boyfriend that ends up beating them up and stuff. Pretty good message. Sweet is an awesome song. One of my favorites. Tim Mahoney just kills it. I love his freaking guitar licks and his little solos and just everything. Tim Mahoney, he was the first thing I really noticed as far as the band as a whole. I think his guitars is what really sold me 311, you know. I'm going to talk more about that in a second, though. And then TMP Combo, another hard charging song that's like impossible to rap along. Not impossible, but impossible for me. Great song. So, yeah, all the songs are awesome. Top tier, except for me, would be Jack-O-Lantern's Weather, Loco, and then Don't Stay Home. Those are on my lower tier. Still, you know, when I was listening to it, like I said, I didn't skip over anything. So now, more on 311. So 311 was like the first band that really kind of opened my eyes or my ears to the individual artists or musicians and their instruments. So before that, it was kind of, you know, a band is a collective thing, and you just kind of hear it as a whole. You might hear the singer a lot, and then the whole band just coming together, and you like what you're hearing. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but it was 311 that I kind of really started to, you know, I would hear Tim Mahoney and really focus on his contribution with the guitar. And then I started to really see and hear, you know, Chad Sexton. And I think a large part of it was Enlarged to Show Detail came out around this time. And my friend and roommate, he had bought it. And I remember it came with Let the Cards Fall. It had the little CD with it. Some of my favorite songs, actually, were on, like, they were little singles or songs that they wrote during the Blue album, but they didn't release it on the Blue album. Kind of wish they would have, though, because they're like some of my favorite songs. So the Enlarged to Show Detail, you get to kind of see the band and stuff like that, and you see like Chad Sexton's drum solos and this and that, and you kind of see them. I don't know. So it really was like, man, they're awesome. You know, their skill level with their instrument was, you know, really great. Now bass, like, I liked Peanut, and obviously when he did his little slap in, you could hear it in that. But to me then, I didn't really hear the bass. And years later, many years later, and then now many years ago for me, as I say this, I started learning the bass a little bit. Again, I play drums. I try to play bass. I can play some stuff. I have good rhythm and timing, but I don't have the best ear for it. And I know where the notes, or I know on the neck which chords are actual chords. I just don't know what they are. Like, I don't know what it's an A. I know if I push down here, this is a chord, but I don't know which note that is. So, but, you know, trying to learn bass, you start to listen and focus more on it. So I kind of have, I guess, developed an ear for it. And listening to this album again, I really was hearing Peanut's contribution to it. You know, I was like, oh dang, man, there's his bass just right there, right in the pocket, fucking, you know what I mean? Just doing the rhythm, keeping it going. I mean, him and Tim Mahoney kind of going hand in hand, but then Tim Mahoney will do his thing, but then Peanut's holding it down, and then, or if, you know, if Hexum is playing the guitar rhythm, then it kind of goes together. You know, Peanut's not a real flashy bass player. He you know, the pocket, as they say, right? So listening to this album now, I hear him much more than I used to when I was younger. So again, 311, one of my favorites. This album is great. It does make me feel old sometimes when I think about when I used to listen to this a lot, but it's a classic album. I think it's in the same, you know, it's just like the Beatles' White Album, or, you know, it's their White Album, but it's the Blue Album, you know. Can you compare the Beatles with 311? You know, maybe not so much, but they do get the comparison of being the Beatles of rap rock, you know what I mean?
311, the Beatles of rap rock.
Like, they do what they do, and they do it well, you know, and they've been going strong for almost 40 years now, and there's not too many bands that can have the same members that they've had the whole time, you know. I can't think of anybody, really. I mean, you know, I have to say, my era, there's still a lot of bands that are going strong, and other bands would be going strong if, you know, members had survived, you know. But, you know, I grew up, and my favorites were like Pearl Jam. Pearl Jam's still around, right? Red Hot Chili Peppers, they're still around. Korn, still around. Deftones, still around. 311, still around, you know. So a lot of my favorite bands are still around, you know. To me, that makes me say, like, well, okay, I got good taste, right? Because the bands that I really liked, who I used to try and push on people who they didn't know, who is this? What is this? Ugh. And then when they became big and popular, then I was like, oh, man, they're all, you know, gatekeeping kind of stuff. Yeah, I was guilty of it. I ain't gonna lie. The point is like, out of all those bands, 311's the only one that's the same core members, you know? You had people leave or die or whatever. Yeah, because, I mean, so Pearl Jam, basically the same, but they're drummers. They went through, like, you know, a million drummers. Korn, new drummer, new bassist. Deftones, obviously Che, he died. If he hadn't died, they would probably still be together. Chili Peppers, you got what's-his-face leaving how many times, and I don't know. I don't know, I kind of lost interest in like I said, like, you know, I used to be infatuated with music, but, you know, all my favorites, I don't really listen to new Chili Peppers. Like, the last one came out, I listened to a little bit, but I don't know, just didn't do anything for me. Even the last Deftones album, what was it called? The green album with the white snake on it? I've listened to it once, and I don't care to listen to it again. Like, I'm going to have to force myself. If I want to listen to Deftones, I'll listen to some of their earlier stuff. Not, like, the very earliest, you know, but, I don't know. The last 3 albums from Deftones have been kind of meh for me, so. But 311 has always been pretty consistent. Yes, I think they got 14 albums, I want to say off the top of my head. And I think out of those 14, 3 of them I could probably deal with. Even though there's some really great songs on those albums, I could probably be okay not listening to. But that might change, though. I don't know. It's like I want to talk about it, but I kind of want to wait until... Well, I'm just doing the albums. I'm not doing a tier list. So, let's see. So, Voyager, which came out a couple years ago, has some great songs, but... It's one of my lower favorite albums of theirs. Don't Tread on Me, again, I haven't listened to that in forever. So when it comes time for me to discuss that, I'm going to listen to it. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that'll change. Maybe I should talk about that before so I can see the difference. Okay, so Blue Album, a favorite. Music and Grassroots, I really love. To me, I put those in the same, like, one album because they're both very similar. You know, they have a vibe. Music and Grassroots has a vibe, a sound. Then the Blue Album has its own sound. And then Transistor kind of has its own sound. And then after that, starting with Sound System, I think they kind of pulled from all of those for each album, if that makes any sense. But that's, to me, is the beginning of the 311 sound, really, as we know it today. Full Bloom, I'm liking a lot. But Voyager is okay. Mosaic, I love. Stereolithic, I love. I don't know why I'm starting backwards, but I am. Universal Pulse, that's one of them I do not like. I remember, I think it's because it was really short, and I don't know. Again, I might listen to it again and fall in love with it again. It's got some great songs on it. I remember, like, Sunset in July, I want to say is on that one. Uplifter, love it. Don't Tread on Me, one of my lower favorites. And then Evolver, love it. I didn't love it so much at first. So the Blue Album is what I heard first, and then it was Transistor. Transistor was kind of, I don't know, I had to force myself to listen to it, and then eventually it grew on me and became one of my favorites. and I'll talk more about that on the next episode. And then that's when I learned about music and grassroots. Completely different sound, but still loved it. And then Sound System is a favorite. I love Sound System. From Chaos, I liked a lot, or loved it at first, and then I don't know. So it's not, I don't know if I have to do like high tier and low tier. That would be more on a low tier, probably, maybe. I don't know. And then Evolver, I was kind of hesitant with that one, but then that one became one of my favorites. And then Don't Tread on Me, like I said, Uplifter, one of my favorites. Universal Pulse, not one of my favorites. And then you already heard the rest. So I'm kind of curious to see it. Don't Tread on Me, I haven't listened to in a while, or Universal Pulse. So I'm kind of interested to see how I take those this time around. But we'll see. Anyway, I think that's it. I've been blabbing long enough. For those, if you listen to my first podcast of this, I'm sorry. Hopefully this is an improvement. I know audio-wise, the sound quality is going to be better. I'm not going to explain why. That's in my a different podcast. But yeah, so that's it. So I got a little ways to go. I'm going to talk about each album, and maybe they'll be a little shorter, not so much, generalization about 311. But this is the first one, so it's going to be kind of a big chunk. But anyway, are you a 311 fan? Let me know. And appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out. God bless.
There were many brave souls on that lonely fob, but none fought like the white lass.